Next, so starting into the class 10. So where we will focus right now onto the usage of Python, help, and other things that we didn't learn earlier. Class 10, 9th of Feb. Okay. So first coming to the case of help. What is the help? How to use the help? So in this directory itself, see here, I want to create a new file. I want to create a file in this directory level, not in any others. So I hold on it. Then I'm creating a file. So I see here, if I write usage of help.py, did you see in which directory it was created? Fine. Now we need to learn something about the help. How to run this program? We were in a directory structure. So ls will give the list of files. You are way beneath the basics. So you need to go 0 to basics. Again ls. Did you see your file is here itself? So fine. So you can just run python usage.py. Or if you want to clear the previous message, clear and python so and so. This is how you execute the program. Now I came here. Coming to the case of the help. Every program, what we do standardly, the shebang line, which is not mandatory, but we write. Then like the docstring, which is telling the reason for it. Now coming to the case of these values. Let's take the example of a dozen, which is an integer. So I told that Python is a object-oriented programming language. Means everything is treated as an object. So let's say on your table, you have a keyboard, you have your mobile, your phone, so your pen, so multiple things. How do you recognize everything? By a particular shape, texture, and all these details, right? So now if I need to see what is the things, there are multiple things from the particular object. For an object, if you want to get the value, so if I want to get the value, I can say print the value, right? That's the easiest way. And if I want to get the address location, so address location, then I can go for the ID, which is a built-in function to get the ID, address location. And if you want to know the type of it, type, so we have like type is a built-in function to get that data type associated. So like that, we have different things for different purposes, right? If I execute it as it is an integer, I get these things. And then the next thing in terms of usages, usage of this object. If you anytime want, there is something called as DAR. DAR will give the usage of that object. So for a given object, these things will be changing. Now, initially I wrote like this. You can see the values 12. So all these things are there. And also if you want documentation, so there is one attribute called as, for every object, mostly it will be there, except a very few, docs, underscore, underscore, doc, underscore, underscore. So underscore, underscore, doc, underscore, underscore will give the documentation about it. Means what is this? What is this about? What we can do with this and all these things. But if you want to get more details, there is something called as help. You give any object, it will give its help. Now, if I execute it, did you see now? So it is giving the help. And did you observe for all these values when printing, you were explicitly writing a print statement. But did you notice for the help, so you need not write any kind of print. Help don't expect any print. So no print needed to display the help. And also help will be something big, right? Not everything will have a small help. Lot of documentation. If you want to go to each of them, you can do enter or strug and then do. And if you want to exit, you need to write Q. So type Q to exit the help. So this is how you get it. Hope you understood the difference between underscore doc and the help and DIR. DIR will give the attributes only. Underscore doc or documentation will give only the brief thing. But if you go to the help, you will get all details. But did you see once I come out of that help, in the output, you're not seeing that help output, right? Means it will show like a new session. So the session will be closed. Okay, I marked it as an integer. I got it. What if for the same dozen, I'm writing like this? Observe, I'm not deleting the previous value. I'm not overwriting or commenting. If I have the same variable defined twice, then what will be the actual resultant value? It will try to overwrite the previous value. Now, if you see, instead of calling it like a integer, now it will treat like a float. Observe carefully. So if I come out of it, you can observe. So when you have integer, it told like integer, now it is float. I told that address location will every time change. It doesn't matter, but just for our awareness. DIR things are different. You see? So for integer, so imaginary, real, all these things are not there. But here we got it. Next, for the same thing, if I mark it like a, say, none type, means like I'm not deleting it, I'm trying to overwrite it. If I do now, it is saying none type. So none type is poor enough. It has no much attributes. If I do like you can see. So in none type, did you observe that there were no attributes without underscores, right? Means all the meta information only, not any specific attributes. Documentation, it has nothing. So that's why it is none again. Now, if I do like something called as Boolean. Now, as you know, Boolean is an integer again. Did you see it is saying bull of int? Okay, class. Did you observe till now for everything when I'm asking help, you're getting a class? We didn't create a class till now, but still we are calling object-oriented because object-oriented doesn't mean that we need to implement classes every time. Of course, in the later stage, we will implement it. But just to be aware that any object when you're working, any variable, so in the backend, it will create an object because of these things. So with this, you understood the help clarity, how it is working and all these things. Now, the interesting part. So unlike any other things, so help works very differently for the string objects. You can go for any other objects, but except for the strings. Only for strings, it works very differently. Why, sir? What is the problem? Let me show the things rather in the interactive mode. If I clear the screen, if I do like a IPython, and show you here much clearly. Same dozen I am taking as 12. Okay. If I ask the type of dozen, you got it. So if I ask like help of dozen, yeah, as you know, till now, all the things I did, right? So quickly, I'm going for the help of dozen. Oh, sorry. I got the help. It is saying it's of type integer. Everything is fine. Now, for the same thing, say name is equal to Python. So for the name, if I'm asking here, what is the type of name? It says it's of type string. If I say ID of name, it's also fine. So if I ask for DIR of name, it gives the attributes. That is also fine. But if you ask the help of name, it will say no help. If I ask name dot underscore underscore doc underscore underscore, you get some kind of documentation. For better understanding, if I use a print statement, you can see that. Means for the strings, if you are passing like this one, docs, then it works perfect. So it is giving the documentation. But when you're asking help, why, sir, it is not giving? That is what you need to understand. So here itself, if I say dozen is equal to same dozen is equal to same true, but like a string, if I give, so then you can notice the difference. Did you see that? For Did you see that it is telling it is of type string? For type string, what it is saying? For documentation you got, but help you are not getting. Now, what is the solution, sir? Why you are not getting means only for strings, when you want a help, you need to specify that explicitly. We need to specify that explicitly. Means for strings, instead of taking that variable, if you want a help, you should specify help of str. You know, help will work for different things, not just your variables. If you ask int, it will give int help. If you ask like help of bull, it will give boolean help. So if you ask like, str, it will give like str help. But generally, when you have variables, you do all kinds of, variables and ask the help of that. It will indirectly check what is the data type and do it. But only for strings, you need to understand. If you wish to ask any kind of help, you can ask for a specific things with an attribute, not for that string object directly. So this is the problem with the help, and this is the usage of help that you need to understand. So next, going for the next one, which is the usage of pydoc, means in terms of the documentation. What all things we can do in the documentation. In fact, if you want to create a documentation, there are like multiple tools. So pydoc is the first most important thing. Later, at the end of the projects, I will tell you how to use the Spinix for creating a documentation. So here, what I wish to tell you is that if you want to get the help, you need to go and ask the pydoc for any help. So by default, when you're installing Python, you will get pydoc installed. So if I say Python, till now I told Python file name or Python or IPython, but for the first time, Python -m I am telling. -m means, hey, using Python, I want to work with a module called as pydoc. So did you see that it is giving the documentation of this pydoc? What all things we can do? pydoc a name, pydoc a keyword, all these things. Now coming back to this pydoc, same like the help, we can use pydoc also. What is the difference between pydoc and help, sir? Means you go into the Python environment like a interactive mode or in a script mode, and you can ask help. But if you are outside, like traditionally, so if you want to get the help, Python -m pydoc, say integer. Regarding integer, I want to get the help. Did you see the same help you got with pydoc also? But this is like outside in the Python world, it's a terminal. If I use like str, I got it right. So I cannot ask for like name is equal to language and ask pydoc of a name, because here nothing to evaluate. So generic things, so either built-ins or third-party modules or others you can do. So simple examples you can count, like you can ask the type of a particular file and others. Say a simple example, if you know any module, not just like built-ins, even a module or a function or anything you can ask. Python -m. So pydoc, if I say math module is there. So if you ask what all things we can do with the math module, you will get it. Similarly, if I want to get the tuple, or something, so we have worked on some built-in functions. So we can ask anything like -m, pydoc. We worked on input function, right? If I ask input, so it says input is a prompt, it takes, and it will do like that. It is saying. Similarly, if you want to, you don't know which module to use sometimes, but you want to work with the time-related modules. Then in that case, you can say Python -m, pydoc -k. It's like a Google search. Google search means you don't know the exact document where you want to go. You give a search with a keyword, you get all the results, you can pick whatever you want. Similarly, if I ask for the time, what are all the modules which are installed? Within that, wherever time is used, everything you are getting. Either it can be a unit test or a direct script, everything you will get. And similarly, there is another interesting thing. So if I can stop here fastly. Yeah, if you want to stop any running process, Control C. And the next thing, if you want to see these things in a better way, in like a browser you want to, you can do like this. Means then it will create a new web browser. It's like a static website, you can think. You can see all the results here. If you want to go for a particular module, say like you want to go to shuttle, you can click on it. You can see all the documentation and everything. Means the same results you will get, but in a better way. Say like if I want to go for say math, see math module, what all things you see there, saw there, the same things you are getting, right? So after your work is done, you can write like a queue, then it will quit that. If you go back, it won't work again further. If I reload, nothing. So like that, it will create a static server for us. So there are different things. If you want to create that server in a particular port, so here it is creating in a random port, right? Ephemeris port. But if you want in a specific port, you can give that. Or else the last big thing is that if you have one Python script, for that Python script, if you want to create a docstring, so we can do that. So how we can do is like, let's take the example of usage of help. So this is the Python script we have. For this, I want to create a documentation. So it is in the current directory. I can do directly Python -m. So pydoc -w. What is the file name? Say usage of help, right? So this is my Python script, usage of help.py. Remove this .py extension. Means I want to create for this same name. It will execute all the results of that script. And finally, it will create. See, wrote usage of help.txt. Sorry, HTML. Did you see that it created a HTML file? So HTML files, you cannot see directly. But if you try to visualize, so open with, say, we need to have some kind of browser integrated. Either, so extensions, you can go for an extension. Extension if you ask. Because earlier how it opens up means it created a application server. So now it cannot do that. I can ask like a Chrome browser or something and you can open it. So I don't want to waste the time, but just you can see that afterwards. Same visualization, it will do much better. Say Chrome browser. Okay. So like that, you can install one of the browsers and open with that. Everything will have some kind of integrations. You can use that. It's not working. Maybe it's taking a moment for installing that extension, right? Okay, so you can use that and you do it. So this is how we can work with the pydoc integrations. So the next thing that we will be working is onto the language components. This is the most important point. Every language, everyone know how to write a hello world, but after that things will be difficult. So language components are something like every language will have. So once you know the basic grammar, if you know these components, then you can work on the remaining things much more easily. So in those language components, the first and foremost thing is that how do you relate two things? For relating, you have something called as relational operations. What do you mean by relational operations? So let's see. If I go for one thing like that, say Python, so A relationship operations. So what is this relation operation means? If you have two things, how do you relate them? Till now you understood how to create integers and strings. Now how do you relate them? Relate means either something is less than, greater, equal, like that you are trying to compare. So this comparison is the first thing. Let's take the example of US dollar and Canadian dollar are two variables. And these are having some value. Now tell me, are they both equal? No. So as a human being, you know the differences, right? How they are related, which is greater, lesser, all these things. The same thing you can ask here also. So generally, till now, right? We can do a direct print, or like we can use an F string, or like we can use the F string assignments. Hope you know that there are 3 ways of printing these values, right? We did earlier also. Now we need to run this program, means where we need to go. So if I do like pwd in Linux, called as present working directory, it says where you are. Here also it will show in the command line for us, but fine. Now if I need to go back to the previous directory, ls, now I need to go to 03 and again ls, you get here, and 01 relationship operations, you got your file. Now if I need to execute clear and Python, so it is not placing here. So means like what are the file I created, it was not created inside it. So it is a mistake. So I am dragging it. So it was gone now. Now if I do like ls, did you see I got the file? Fine. So clear and Python, I got it. Did you see I got the same results in all these 3? So either direct print, F strings, or F string assignments. Okay. Now coming back to our main use case, we need to compare both the results. I told F string assignments are advantages, right? In these kind of cases. Observe, I want to write this US dollar equal to Canadian dollar. Means why I'm writing in quotes? Because in the output it will show. Along with that, it will show the result of it also. Then I will understand which is true, which is false, why it is showing. So the same thing can be done in an F string assignments. See how much fastly. So instead of writing this laborious code, you can write the things in very fastly, right? So that's the main difference. And you see, when you did a comparison, it is saying both are not equal. So both are equal means false. So like that, you can compare different other operations. If I say like I'm saying greater than or equal to, less than, like that I give. So observe, you get all the results. And earlier in Python 2, there used to be one more operator. Even still in some of the SQL dialects, we have this symbol for not equal to. So nowadays, slowly everyone is replacing to this new operator. But earlier there used to be this operator for not equal to. So now it is no more there, but still you can see the remaining operations. It's a common sense, whether it is less or not. When you ask 2 variables, first it will check whether these variables are defined. 2, if they are defined, it will check for the data types. Both should be of same data type. Earlier in Python 2, we can compare even integer and a string also. So how it happened there means, when you give a string character, it used to take its ASCII code and it used to compare. But in Python 3, they made to clear all this mess. Integer can be compared with integer only. Except the equal to, not equal to symbols, the remaining things will tell relative change, right? Equal to and not equal to tells exact equalness. Whereas for remaining things, they will say relative change, whether it is greater or less. So that's the reason. So these operations, except equal and not equal, cannot be applied on other data types. Both sides, we should have the same data type. Okay, sir, I'm placing to some variables and I'm comparing. Can I compare directly the values? Yes, of course, we can do that. If I do like this, you can notice that you are comparing both the results directly. So this is same as this one, but here we are using direct values. Here passing into the variables and using it. Next, everyone will get confused about these operations. It's called as equal to and assignment. So I have seen as a beginner, you generally confuse between these 2 things. 2 equals means value level equivalence check. 1 equal means assignment. For assignment, you need to have a value on the right side and the variable on the left side, or variable on both sides. But you cannot have value on the left side. So this is not possible. Whereas equal to, we can do with any things. We can compare. Next. So next important thing is, sir, You told about two string, so two numbers, we can compare it. So for strings, this is a bit confusing. Some of the person asked, that's the reason I wrote it. The point is like, if you have two integers, you can tell, so which is greater, which is lesser. But for strings, how can we say, sir, which is lesser or greater? Yes, based upon the character positions. So where you are present. So the first character is A. So first character is A. So based upon their ASCII code occurrences, we can tell. In this case, you can see both are equal, right? Exactly equal. But if I go for one more case, if I say ABC and BC, now it will tell which is greater means at the 0th position, it has A, it has B. Which is greater? B is greater. So that's why it will tell directly. If there is a clash only, it will go to the next value like that. For equal to only, we need to compare all. For others, we can do. So if you see here in this case, str1 is greater than str2? No. str1 is greater than or equal to str2? True. So less than or equal to str2 like this. So, okay, I need to run it again. Yeah, sorry. The second value you see here. Second one, if you see ABC and BC, it is saying like, string 1 is lesser because at the 0th position, it did like this. So string comparisons will be done at the value levels. Hope you understood about these relationship operations. Now, an assignment for you. Repeat the same for all the data types. Means we need to apply all these operations on remaining data types. Next, what is the second one? Called as logical operations. When you relate two things, will there be only two in the real world? There can be multiple, right? So if you want to do multiple such kind of comparisons and others, we need to have a logical relation or logical operations. What are these logical operations? How they can help us? To understand, it is very easy. Logic means there are three types. If you want to end means like compare all, or like or means like any of one of them, or like not means the reverse of the existing thing. So now generally, if you see till now what happened, when you did a relation operation, what is the result? Whether it is correct or not, for correct it is giving true, for false it is giving false, right? So when you do relation operation, you got a Boolean result. In the same fashion, for logical operations also, you get the Boolean result. Means whatever the operations and relation operations are there, that we will use for logic. I will explain you shortly. So in the back end, what happens when you apply these AND or operations? Hope you remember what you have learned earlier. So if I need to go back to this, so if I go for dir, I got it, Python 02, so and so. Now clear and Python a logical operations. AND operation will work what? So I'm just giving only two for our clarity, but in reality, there can be multiple such things. So I will show you afterwards slowly. But if there are things, what it does, AND operation, if all of them are true, the end result is true. If at least one of them is false, the result is false. You got it like that? Similarly, if I need to go for one more operation, like logical operation, or if all are false, result is false, else the result is true. It's like a optimistic guy. At least one of them is true, the result is true. So, and similarly, if I go for the case of not will just negate the previous value. You take like different examples, you can see the things. If I say not of true, it is false. Not of false, it is true. Not of true, it is true. Generally, many languages, if you write like this, it will throw in error. But in Python, it works. If I go like not false, it works. So what if I have something, sir, like, not something very big, not true. So will it work? Yes, pretty much. So that's the beauty of Python, that you can have even this value and it works. And the result, if you see, it is like the result. If you give like even number of nots, it makes no difference. If you give odd number of nuns, it makes some difference. Now coming to the real-time use cases where these operations of logical and others will be used. Will we use this true and false every time? No. So what we will do in real time is, don't you remember that you do some checks, right? If 45 is less than or equal to 45 and 3 is greater than 333, I wrote like two conditions. Then it will check individually whether this condition is true or false. This condition is true, yes. This condition is true, false, and we need to do an OR operation. So OR means at least one of them true, result is true. So if you see, execute it, did you get the true expression result? Generally in if conditions or while conditions, you write these conditions only, right? So now let's take and debug these things. Is 45 less than or equal to 45? It is not less but equal. So we can write like true. I write like OR. So is 3 greater than 333? No, false. And so is 9 equal to 9? Yes, true. Fine. Now within this AND and OR, which one will take first? Again, the concept of PEMDAS comes to picture. PEMDAS comes to picture. If you observe, so in the first chapter, in the arithmetic operations, so I mentioned about operator precedence. If you go to the text, you will see. Now the question is what? I want to check if there are AND and OR at the same position, which will take place first. Did you see in the Boolean AND and OR and NOT, which one I told first? First NOT will execute, then the AND will happen, lastly the OR will happen. So now if you see the output, it will be like this. So as I told you, so first AND will happen. What is the end of these two? False. AND means it expects everything to be true. At least one of them, it false. And now true or false means you get like true. Next, so if I try to print this value, you get the answer, right? You get the answer. You can see it. So it is saying true. In the same fashion, if I place braces also, it makes sense. You see the same answer. Here, this time I placed braces around it. So the things within this will be executed first, then it will be executing. Same PEMDAS logic. So similarly, if I do something like this, say I placed all our OR conditions. Sir, if there are two OR conditions, which OR will execute first? Generally, it makes no sense, right? Everything will be working. But within that also, if you want to know, Python execution is top to bottom and right to left. There are some languages which are bottom to up approach, right? So Python is like left to right, top to bottom. That's why it's like a pen and paper. Whatever you do, the same thing which we do here also. Next, so based upon these conclusions, we will go to the next operations like this. Further into the logical operations. If I go into the logical operations, you can see that. So there is one more thing. So I can go for a big condition. See, this time I'm going for not one, but two. Is it possible to do this kind of relation? More than one relation at a time? Yes. In Python, it is not at all wrong. So we can execute even this also. So this may seem strange for the newbies who are coming from different languages, but here it works. So what it does in the backend, as both conditions should met. So what it does, it will divide and do two things. Means 23 is less than 73 and 70 is less than so and so. It will check both the conditions. Seems like first condition is correct, second is false, so the result will be false. So similarly, you can go for different conditions. So if I go with multiple examples, see here I have bigger conditions. So all the conditions should individually work and only then it works. So if I go further and add further more conditions, not just like less than only, less than, equal, any condition you can make. So here I'm doing equals, not equal, like that I can do different things. So this is called as chain operation, chaining comparison operators. And the last important thing, very few people know about this in Python. This is called as short circuiting. Short circuiting means if you want to make a condition, you need not check all the things. You can check the first things and you can stop. The interesting part here is that, let's say I have two variables, 0 and 1. So similarly, I have 3 and 9. So if I ask 0 through 9 and 9, till now you know true and falses. But if you are right now working with numbers, now the interesting part is if I execute, it will show 0 and 1 will result in 0 and 3 and 9 will result in 9. What is this, sir? So let me go for one last example. If I say 3 and 9 and 13, now did you see it is taking the last value? And again, I am taking one more thing. So if I take like this, did you see in this case? I'm saying 3 and 13 and 9. So whichever is highest doesn't matter. Whichever is last, that you will getting. Did you observe? And similarly, so if I go for the next thing, 3 and 0 and 13 and 9. If you see what you will get, you get 0. Sir, why I'm getting 0? It doesn't matter. At any point, if you have one of them 0, the end result will be 0. So whatever you're thinking in terms of logic, true carries a value of 1, false carries a values of 0. End means like it will process all the values and it will store the last value. Whereas if you go for the case of R, the things are slightly different. Means like whichever is the first value, you get it. First valid value or first non-zero value, you get it. When it is 0,